This is a story about Macedonia, Greece, Persia, Alexander the Great, and the great change in the ancient world. Long ago, Greece was not one country. Greece had many small city-states. A city-state was a city and the land around it. Each city-state had its own people, laws, army, and leaders. Athens was one famous city-state. Sparta was another famous city-state. Thebes was also important. These city-states spoke Greek, but they did not always live in peace. They often fought each other. To the north of Greece was Macedonia. Macedonia was not at first as strong as Athens or Sparta. However, Macedonia had good land, strong people, and an important place near Greece. In time, Macedonia became very strong. The king who made Macedonia strong was Philip II. Philip II became king of Macedonia in 359 BCE. BCE means before Christ. It is a way to count years long ago. Philip II became king at a difficult time. Macedonia had enemies around it. There were problems inside the country too. Philip II had to make his country safe and strong. Philip II was a very able king. He made a strong standing army. A standing army is an army that is always ready. It is not an army made only when war begins. The soldiers trained again and again. They learned how to move together and how to fight as one group. Philip II also made new ways to fight. His soldiers used very long spears. A spear is a long stick with a sharp point at the end. The soldiers stood close together in long lines. This group of soldiers was hard to break. When the army moved, the long spears made a wall in front of the men. The army of Philip II was strong because the men trained often. They did not fight as single men only. They fought together. Each man had to know his place. Each man had to help the men next to him. This made the Macedonian army very dangerous in battle. Philip II did not use only war. He also used talks, marriage, gifts, and plans. Sometimes he made friends with a city. Sometimes he made a city afraid. Sometimes he fought. He looked carefully at the problems around Macedonia. Step by step, he made Macedonia larger and stronger. At this time, many Greek city-states were tired after many wars. Athens, Sparta, Thebes, and other city-states had fought for a long time. Their people wanted peace, but the city-states did not trust each other. Because Greece was divided, Macedonia could become more powerful. Some people in Greece saw Macedonia as a danger. One of these people was Demosthenes. Demosthenes was an Athenian politician and speaker. A politician is a person who works in the government of a city or country. A speaker is a person who gives talks to many people. Demosthenes was famous for his powerful speeches. He spoke to the people of Athens. He told them that Philip II and Macedonia were becoming too strong. He wanted Athens and other Greek city-states to stand against Macedonia. He tried to make the people understand the danger. Demosthenes loved Athens and wanted Athens to stay free. He did not want Macedonia to rule Greece. He spoke with great feeling. His speeches were strong and clear. Even today, people remember Demosthenes as a great speaker. However, Philip II continued to grow stronger. He took land and made more cities follow Macedonia. Many Greek city-states could not stop him alone. At last, Athens and Thebes made a group army. They hoped to stop Philip II before it was too late. In 338 BCE, Philip II fought Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea. Chaeronea was a place in Greece. This battle was very important. Athens and Thebes had many brave soldiers. They wanted to keep Macedonia from ruling Greece. Philip II led the Macedonian army. His young son, Alexander, also fought in the battle. Alexander was still very young, but he was already brave and able. He fought with the soldiers and showed that he could be a strong leader. The Battle of Chaeronea was hard and terrible. Many men fought and died. In the end, Philip II won. The army of Athens and Thebes lost. This victory changed Greece. After the battle, Macedonia was the strongest power in Greece. Philip II did not destroy every Greek city-state. He understood that Greece could help him in the future. He wanted the Greek city-states to work with Macedonia. He also wanted to lead the Greeks in a great war against Persia. In 337 BCE, Philip II made the Corinthian League. Corinth was an important Greek city. The Corinthian League was a group of Greek city-states under the power of Macedonia. Most Greek city-states joined this league. Sparta did not join the Corinthian League. Sparta was proud and did not want to follow Philip II. But Sparta was not strong enough to stop Macedonia. Philip II had control over almost all of Greece, even though Sparta stayed outside the league. The Corinthian League gave Philip II great power. He was the leader of the Greek city-states. The cities still had their own people and some of their own laws, but Macedonia was above them. Greece was now under Macedonian control. Philip II had a great plan. He wanted to lead the Greeks across the sea to Asia. There, they would fight the Achaemenid Empire. The Achaemenid Empire was also called the Persian Empire. It was a very large empire. It had much land, many people, and great wealth. The Persian Empire had once fought Greece. Long before Philip II, Persian kings had sent armies to Greece. The Greeks had fought against them at famous battles. Because of this history, Philip II could say that a war against Persia was also a war for Greece. Philip II was ready for his great plan. But he did not live to begin it. In 336 BCE, Philip II was killed. He was assassinated. To assassinate means to kill an important leader. His death was sudden and shocking. After Philip II died, his son became king. His son was Alexander. Today, he is called Alexander the Great. Alexander was very young when he became king, but he was not weak. He acted quickly and strongly. Alexander had learned much when he was young. One of his teachers was Aristotle. Aristotle was a very famous Greek thinker. A thinker is a person who asks deep questions and tries to understand the world. Aristotle studied many things, such as nature, animals, people, ideas, and government. Aristotle was Alexander's teacher when Alexander was young. Aristotle taught him about Greek books, Greek ideas, science, and the world. He taught Alexander to think carefully. Alexander also learned about Homer and Greek heroes. Alexander liked stories about heroes. He wanted to do great things. He wanted to be remembered. He was brave, quick, and full of strong feeling. He also had a sharp mind. He could make fast plans in difficult times. When Alexander became king in 336 BCE, some people thought Macedonia would become weak. Some Greek city-states thought they could break away from Macedonia. Some lands near Macedonia also tried to fight him. Alexander had to show that he was the new king. Alexander moved very quickly. He led his army against people who did not follow him. He stopped fights inside Macedonia. He made nearby lands follow him again. Then he turned to Greece. He showed the Greek city-states that Macedonia was still strong. The city of Thebes tried to fight against Alexander. Alexander attacked Thebes and won. The result was very hard for Thebes. After this, many Greek city-states were afraid to fight Macedonia. Alexander became the leader of the Corinthian League, like his father before him. Now Alexander could begin the great plan of Philip II. He would go east and fight the Persian Empire. This journey and war are called the Eastern Expedition. An expedition is a long journey for a special reason, often for war or discovery. In 334 BCE, Alexander began the Eastern Expedition. He crossed from Europe into Asia Minor. Asia Minor was land in the west of Asia. Today, much of this land is in Turkey. Alexander took his Macedonian army and Greek soldiers with him. The army was not very large when compared with all the people of the Persian Empire. But Alexander's army was well trained. The soldiers trusted their king. They had fought together before. They had strong leaders and clear plans. Alexander often led from the front. He rode with his men and fought near them. This made his soldiers brave. They saw that their king did not ask them to do something that he would not do himself. They believed in him. At first, Alexander fought Persian forces in Asia Minor. He won battles and took cities. Some cities opened their gates to him. Other cities fought against him. Alexander did not always use the same plan. Sometimes he attacked. Sometimes he waited. Sometimes he made an agreement. As Alexander moved east, more people heard about him. They heard that he was young but very strong. They heard that he won battles against larger armies. They heard that he was the king of Macedonia and the leader of Greece. The Persian king at this time was Darius III. Darius III was the king of the Achaemenid Empire. He had great power and many soldiers. He knew that Alexander was a danger. He gathered a large Persian army to stop him. In 333 BCE, Alexander and Darius III met at the Battle of Issus. Issus was in the northwest part of Syria. Syria was an important land between the sea and the east. The Battle of Issus was one of the most famous battles of the ancient world. Darius III had a very large army. His army had Persian soldiers and soldiers from many different lands in the empire. Alexander had fewer men, but his army was better able to fight together in a small space. The land near Issus was important. There were mountains and the sea. The place was not wide. This made it hard for the very large Persian army to use all its men well. Alexander understood this and used the land to help his army. Alexander attacked with great force. His soldiers moved forward with their long spears. His horse soldiers also fought hard. Alexander tried to reach Darius III himself. In ancient battles, the king was very important. If the king ran away, the army could lose hope. During the Battle of Issus, Darius III left the battle. When the Persian soldiers saw that their king had gone, many of them began to run. Alexander won a great victory. The Persian army was beaten. After Issus, Alexander had even more fame. People now saw that he was not only a young king. He was a great war leader. He had defeated Darius III, the king of the huge Persian Empire. Alexander did not at once run after Darius III far into the east. First, he went south along the coast. He wanted to control the cities by the sea. This was important because Persia had ships. Alexander did not want Persian ships to attack him from the sea behind him. Some cities gave themselves to Alexander. Other cities did not. One city, Tyre, fought against him for a long time. Tyre was on an island near the coast. Alexander had to make a long road of stone and earth to reach it. At last, he took the city. Alexander then moved to Egypt. Egypt was a rich land by the Nile River. The Nile gave water to the land. Egypt had old cities, old temples, and a long history. It had been under Persian rule. The people of Egypt did not strongly fight Alexander. Many people were happy to see the Persian rulers leave. Alexander became the ruler of Egypt. In Egypt, people said that Alexander was a godlike king. This was different from Greek ideas. But Alexander accepted the honor. While he was in Egypt, Alexander built a new city. He called it Alexandria. He gave the city his own name. Alexandria was near the sea and near the Nile River. Its place was very good for ships, trade, and people from many lands. Alexander built many cities called Alexandria in different parts of his empire. These cities were Greek-style cities. A Greek-style city had Greek buildings, Greek markets, Greek language, and Greek ways of life. They were places where Greek and local people could meet. The Alexandria in Egypt became the most famous Alexandria. In later years, it became a great center of trade, learning, and culture. Culture means the way people live, think, make art, write, and learn. Alexandria in Egypt became important for many hundreds of years. After Egypt, Alexander turned back toward the east. Darius III was still alive. The Persian Empire was not yet finished. Alexander knew that he needed one great victory to break the power of Persia. In 331 BCE, Alexander and Darius III met again at the Battle of Gaugamela. Gaugamela was in the land of Mesopotamia, near the Tigris River. This battle was even more important than the Battle of Issus. Darius III had prepared for this battle. He had a very large army. He had horse soldiers, foot soldiers, and war carts. The war carts had sharp blades on their wheels. Darius III hoped that these carts would cut through Alexander's lines. Darius III chose a wide, flat field for the battle. He wanted his large army to have space to move. He wanted to use all his soldiers. He also wanted the war carts to move quickly across the ground. Alexander looked at the field carefully. He did not rush without thinking. He studied the Persian army. He made a plan with his officers. An officer is a leader in an army. Alexander trusted good men, but he was the one who made the final plan. When the battle began, the Persian army moved forward. The war carts came toward the Macedonian soldiers, but Alexander's men were ready. They moved aside in some places. They attacked the carts and stopped them. Alexander saw a weak place in the Persian line. He led his best horse soldiers toward it. He moved fast and attacked hard. His men broke into the Persian army. Again, Alexander tried to reach Darius III. Darius III became afraid and left the battle. When the Persian soldiers lost hope, the Persian army began to break apart. Alexander won a decisive victory at Gaugamela. A decisive victory is a victory that changes everything. The Battle of Gaugamela broke the main power of the Achaemenid Empire. After this battle, Alexander could take the great cities of Persia. Alexander entered Babylon. Babylon was an old and famous city. It had large walls, great buildings, and a long history. The people of Babylon opened the city to Alexander. He became their new ruler. Alexander also took Susa, another important Persian city. Susa had much gold, silver, and other rich things. The Persian kings had collected wealth from many lands. Alexander now had control of this wealth. Then Alexander went to Persepolis. Persepolis was one of the royal cities of the Achaemenid Empire. It was a beautiful and rich city. The Persian kings had used it for great meetings and festivals. It showed the power of Persia. Alexander took Persepolis. Later, much of Persepolis was burned. The great buildings became ruins. Ruins are the broken parts of old buildings that are left after many years. The burning of Persepolis became a symbol of the fall of Persian power. Some people say that Alexander burned Persepolis because the Persians had once burned Greek places during old wars. Some people say that it happened during a night of food, drink, and strong feeling. We cannot know every part of the story for sure. But Persepolis was badly damaged. Even after Gaugamela, Darius III was still alive. He had gone east. Alexander followed him. Alexander wanted to take Darius III and become the true ruler of the Persian Empire. But Darius III did not die in battle with Alexander. In 330 BCE, Darius III was killed by men from his own side. He was assassinated. After his death, the Achaemenid Empire came to an end. The Achaemenid Empire had been very large and very strong. It had ruled many lands for a long time. It had kings, roads, cities, armies, and great wealth. But after Alexander's victories and the death of Darius III, its rule was over. Alexander was now the ruler of a huge empire. His empire went from Greece and Macedonia in the west to lands far in the east. He had more land than any Greek or Macedonian king before him. However, Alexander did not stop. He wanted to go farther east. He wanted to know more of the world. He wanted to take more land. He wanted to find the end of the earth, as people of his time understood it. Alexander moved through lands that are now part of Iran and Central Asia. These lands were difficult. There were high mountains, cold places, dry places, and people who fought hard for their homes. Alexander's army had to travel very far from Greece. The soldiers were tired. They had been away from home for many years. They had fought many battles. They had walked across deserts and mountains. Still, Alexander asked them to continue. Alexander also tried to join Greek and Persian ways. He did not want only Macedonians and Greeks to rule. He wanted local leaders to help rule the empire. He kept some Persian rulers in their places. He used Persian clothes and Persian customs at times. Some Macedonians did not like this. They thought Alexander was changing too much. They wanted him to stay only a Macedonian king. But Alexander believed that his empire needed both Greek and Persian people. Alexander married Roxana, a woman from a land in Central Asia. Later he also married women from Persian royal families. He wanted to make ties between different peoples. He hoped that Greeks, Macedonians, Persians, and other peoples could live in one empire. Alexander told many of his soldiers to marry local women too. He held a great wedding festival. This was part of his plan to join the peoples of his empire. It was not easy. People had different languages, religions, clothes, food, and ways of life. In the later part of the 4th century BCE, Alexander moved toward India. India was far to the east. It was a land with many rivers, many peoples, and many kingdoms. For Greeks and Macedonians it was a new and very distant world. Alexander and his army went over high mountain passes near the Himalaya. The Himalaya is a great mountain area. The mountains are very high and difficult. The journey was hard for soldiers, horses, and animals carrying food. Alexander entered the land near the Indus River. The Indus River was very important for life in the area. People lived near the river because it gave water. There were farms, towns, and kingdoms near the river. Alexander fought local kings in the Indus River area. Some kings made peace with him. Others fought him. One important battle was against King Porus near the Hydaspes River. But the battle was hard. Alexander respected King Porus because he fought bravely. After the battle, Alexander let Porus rule his land again. Alexander understood that he could not rule every place by himself. He needed local kings and leaders to help him. Alexander conquered much of the land near the Indus River. His empire now reached very far east. It went across many lands, from the west to the east. It was one of the greatest empires of the ancient world. But Alexander wanted to go even farther. He wanted to move deeper into India. His soldiers did not want to continue. They had traveled for years. They missed their homes. They were tired of rain, heat, rivers, mountains, and war. At last, the soldiers said no. They would not go farther east. Alexander was very sad and angry at first. He wanted to continue his great journey. But even a great king needed his soldiers. Alexander turned back. His army went south and west. Some men traveled by land, some traveled by sea. The journey home was also very hard. Many soldiers died from heat, lack of water, sickness, and tiredness. Alexander returned to the center of his empire. He still had great plans. He wanted to make his empire stronger. He wanted to build more cities. He wanted to join more peoples. He may also have planned new wars. But Alexander did not live long. In 323 BCE, Alexander the Great died suddenly in Babylon. He was only 32 years old. His death shocked his army and all the lands he ruled. We do not know exactly why Alexander died. Some people think he died from sickness. Some people think he had a fever. Others have told stories about poison, but we do not know for sure. What is clear is that he died suddenly and left a huge problem. Alexander did not leave a strong adult son who could rule the whole empire. His family had young children, but they were too young to lead. His officers and generals began to fight over power. These generals are called the diadochi. Diadochi means successors. A successor is a person who comes after a leader. The diadochi had been Alexander's officers. They were strong men with armies. Each wanted land and power. After Alexander died, the diadochi fought many wars. They fought over cities, money, armies, and land. They did not agree about who should rule the empire. The great empire of Alexander began to break apart. For many years the diadochi fought each other. Some made friends for a short time, then they became enemies again. Some leaders died in battle. Some were killed. Some lost their land. The old unity of Alexander's empire was gone. In 301 BCE, an important battle took place at Ipsus. The Battle of Ipsus was part of the Wars of the Diadochi. After this battle, the large empire of Alexander was divided more clearly into separate kingdoms. 3 main kingdoms became important. One was the Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia. This kingdom ruled Macedonia and had power in parts of Greece. It was called Antigonid because it was connected with Antigonus and his family. Another kingdom was the Seleucid kingdom in Syria and much of Western Asia. It was called the Seleucid kingdom because it was ruled by Seleucus and his family. The Seleucid kingdom was very large. It included many different peoples and lands. The third main kingdom was the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. It was called the Ptolemaic kingdom because it was ruled by Ptolemy and his family. Ptolemy had been one of Alexander's officers. He became ruler of Egypt after Alexander's death. These kingdoms were not exactly the same as Alexander's old empire. They were smaller. They often fought each other. But they kept many Greek ideas, Greek cities, Greek language, and Greek ways of life. This time is often called the Hellenistic Age. Hellenistic comes from Hellas, an old Greek name for Greece. The Hellenistic Age was a time when Greek culture spread to Egypt, Syria, Persia, Central Asia, and other lands. Greek culture did not simply replace local cultures. In many places, Greek ideas mixed with Egyptian, Persian, Syrian, and other local ideas. People used more than one language. They followed different gods. They made new kinds of art and learning. Alexandria in Egypt became one of the greatest cities of the Hellenistic age. It had a large harbor for ships. A harbor is a safe place where ships can stop. Ships brought food, cloth, wood, books, and many other things to Alexandria. Alexandria was also a center of learning. Scholars came there to read, write, ask questions, and teach. A scholar is a person who studies deeply. The city had a famous library. A library is a place with many books and writings. The books of that time were not like books today. Many were written on rolls of paper-like material. Still, the library in Alexandria became famous because it tried to collect writings from many places. In Alexandria, people studied stars, numbers, the human body, plants, animals, and the world. Greek learning became important in many lands. At the same time, local knowledge also became part of the new world. The Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt was rich because Egypt had good farmland near the Nile River. It also had trade by sea. The Ptolemaic rulers used Greek ways, but they also used old Egyptian ways to rule the people. The Seleucid kingdom was very large, but it was hard to control. It stretched over a wide area. It had mountains, deserts, rivers, and many different peoples. A kingdom that is very large can be strong, but it can also be difficult to hold together. In 262 BCE, Pergamon became independent from the Seleucid kingdom in Asia Minor. Pergamon was an important city and kingdom. The Attalid dynasty began there. A dynasty is a line of kings from one family. Pergamon became rich and strong. It was known for its beautiful buildings, art, and books. Like Alexandria, Pergamon became an important center of Greek learning and culture in the Hellenistic world. In the middle of the 3rd century BCE, more lands broke away from the Seleucid kingdom. One was the Bactrian kingdom. Bactria was in Central Asia. The Bactrian kingdom was Greek in many ways, because Greek and Macedonian people had settled there after Alexander's conquests. The Bactrian kingdom was far from Greece, but Greek culture lived there. Greek language, Greek coins, Greek art, and Greek city life could be found in the area. This shows how far Greek culture traveled after Alexander. Another kingdom that became independent was the Parthian kingdom. Parthia was in the Iranian area. The people of Parthia were Iranian, not Greek. The Parthian kingdom became strong and took more land from the Seleucid kingdom. The rise of the Bactrian kingdom and the Parthian kingdom made the Seleucid kingdom weaker. It lost land in the east. It could no longer rule all the land that Alexander had once taken from Persia. The Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia also faced problems. Greece had many city-states that wanted freedom. There were also new powers in the west. The most important new power was Rome. Rome began as a city in Italy. Over time, Rome became stronger. Rome had a good army and strong laws. Like Macedonia before it, Rome grew by war, plans, and agreements with other peoples. Rome fought many wars and took control of more land. At first, Rome was mainly important in Italy. Then Rome began to fight in lands near Greece and Macedonia. The Romans wanted power in the eastern Mediterranean world. In 168 BCE, the Antigonid kingdom of Macedonia was defeated by Rome. Macedonia was destroyed as an independent kingdom. This was a very important event. The land that had once been the home of Philip II and Alexander the Great. The fall of Macedonia showed that Rome was becoming the strongest power in the area. Greece and Macedonia could no longer control their own future in the same way. Roman armies and Roman leaders had become very important. The Seleucid kingdom continued for some time after Macedonia fell, but it was weaker than before. It had lost land to Parthia and other powers. It also had problems inside the kingdom. Different people fought for the throne. In 64 BCE, a Roman leader named Pompey defeated the Seleucid kingdom. Pompey was a great Roman general. A general is a high leader in an army. After Pompey's actions, the Seleucid kingdom came to an end. The fall of the Seleucid kingdom meant that Rome now had power in Syria and nearby lands. The old world of Alexander's successors was becoming smaller and weaker. Rome was taking more and more control. The Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt lasted longer than the Antigonid kingdom and the Seleucid kingdom. Egypt was rich, and the Nile River helped the country. Alexandria was still a great city of trade and learning. However, the Ptolemaic kings and queens also had family fights and problems. Over time, Rome became more involved in Egypt. Roman leaders understood that Egypt was rich and important. They wanted influence there. The last famous ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom was Cleopatra. Cleopatra was a queen of Egypt. She was part of the Ptolemaic royal family. She lived many years after Alexander, but her kingdom still came from the world Alexander had made. In 30 BCE, Octavian defeated the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. Octavian was a Roman leader. Later, he became the first Roman emperor and was called Augustus. After 30 BCE, Egypt became part of Roman rule. With the fall of the Ptolemaic kingdom, the three main kingdoms of the Diadochi were all gone. The Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia had fallen to Rome. The Seleucid kingdom in Syria had fallen to Rome. The Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt had also fallen to Rome. Rome had become the great power around the Mediterranean Sea. But the work of Alexander and the Hellenistic age did not disappear. Greek language and Greek culture remained important in many places. Greek cities continued to be centers of trade and learning. Greek books were read by many people. Greek ideas about art, science, government, and philosophy continued to spread. Roman leaders and Roman thinkers also learned from Greek culture. The story begins with Philip II in Macedonia. Philip II made Macedonia strong. He built a standing army. He defeated Athens and Thebes at Chaeronea in 338 BCE. He made the Corinthian League in 337 BCE, with almost all Greek city-states except Sparta. Demosthenes tried to stop Macedonian control of Greece. He spoke strongly for Athens and Greek freedom. But Philip II was too strong. Macedonia became the leading power in Greece. Philip II died in 336 BCE. Then Alexander the Great became king. Alexander had learned from Aristotle when he was young. Aristotle helped him learn about Greek ideas and the world. In 334 BCE, Alexander began the Eastern expedition. He crossed into Asia Minor. In 333 BCE, he defeated Darius III at the Battle of Issus in northwest Syria. This was a great victory over the Persian army. Alexander then took Egypt and built Alexandria in Egypt. In 331 BCE, he won the Battle of Gaugamela against Darius III. This was the decisive victory that broke the power of the Achaemenid Empire. Alexander took Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis. Persepolis, a royal city of Persia, was burned and became ruins. In 330 BCE, Darius III was assassinated. The Achaemenid Empire came to an end. Alexander went farther east. He crossed high mountain passes near the Himalaya and entered India. He conquered land near the Indus River. His empire now reached from the west to the east across many lands. Alexander built Greek-style cities called Alexandria. Alexandria in Egypt became especially important. It became a center of trade, culture, and learning. Greek culture spread far beyond Greece. In 323 BCE, Alexander died suddenly in Babylon. After his death, the Diadochi fought for power. After the Battle of Ipsus in 301 BCE, the empire was divided into the Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia, the Seleucid kingdom in Syria, and the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. Later, Pergamon became independent from the Seleucid kingdom in 262 BCE. The Attalid dynasty began in Pergamon. In the middle of the 3rd century BCE, the Bactrian kingdom and the Parthian kingdom also became independent from the Seleucid kingdom. In 168 BCE, Rome destroyed the Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia. In 64 BCE, Pompey ended the Seleucid kingdom. In 30 BCE, Octavian ended the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. Philip II and Alexander the Great changed the ancient world. Philip II made Macedonia strong and brought Greece under Macedonian power. Alexander took the Persian Empire and made a great empire across east and west. Alexander's empire did not stay together after his death, but his conquests changed many lands. Greek culture met the cultures of Egypt, Persia, Syria, Central Asia, and India. This meeting of cultures made the Hellenistic Age. The Hellenistic Age ended when Rome took the great kingdoms one by one. Still, the ideas, cities, language, art, and learning of the Greek world lived on. The story of Philip II, Alexander the Great, Darius III, Aristotle, Demosthenes, the Diadochi, and Rome remains an important part of world history.